Badger Politic. I'm Scott Stearns.
Yes, this is Paul.
Hey, Paul.
Hi.
Quite a week we've had. The Brewers, on our last podcast, we were leading up to the climax of the NLCS. We went to the game Friday, Game 6. It was a great time. Brewers pulled it out, forced a Game 7. Unfortunately, it came up a little short.
Game 6.
Game 6 was great. Game 7, not as much. I was at both of them, and they came up short. Just
we did
short,
score,
5-1.
I believe, one more run than the Dodgers in the series.
So if you add them all up,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting considering that I think the perception is that the bats, weren't there
Right.
for the NLCS, but their bats weren't really there
it was
either.
16-16 going into that final 2 games in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
So we wound up scoring 24 runs, and they got 1 or 2 on the first day, plus 16, so 18, and then plus 5, so 23.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, all in all, great year, obviously. I think there's a lot to build on. I think
Right.
most of this team is
Right.
intact. I mean, Christian Yelich will be back next year. Lorenzo Cain will be back next year. There's a lot to be said. I mean, last year they came up a game short of making the playoffs. This year they came up a game short of the World Series. So
Right.
that's all good stuff.
So I've been literally trapped in bunkers all over the west side of Milwaukee, working on some independent political activities,
Okay.
getting the vote out.
Yeah.
And, trying to have a really robust performance here. So I've been really focused on the governor race, and all I can tell, and all these polls can show, is that it looks really close.
Yeah, I think so too.
What else is going on? Now, with the big picture, you want to talk about the big picture stuff? Because
Well,
I
I
really
mean,
don't know.
I think
a lot.
I think-
there's these bombings. So
There's-
what's the extent? Can you talk about that? What the extent is?
So yeah, I guess we can start national news and then kind of whittle our way
Yeah,
down to
let's do that.
to Wisconsin. So yeah, there's explosive devices showing up randomly
Right.
at certain people's mailboxes apparently.
Democrats.
So, yeah,
All Democrats, right?
Bill and Hillary Clinton had an explosive device found in their at their home.
Okay.
It was identified by Secret Service. The Obamas as well in Washington D.C. CNN's headquarters in New York. George Soros, Debbie Wasserman Schultz apparently had one as well. So I think there were a total of 8 identified, is what I last read before we started recording. And so, what's this all about? Obviously, this is some nut job that's doing this. But I guess, the question bears asking. I mean, how much of this is the culture that has been expressed by guys like Donald J. Trump?
Anger, the toxic masculinity,
Right.
right-wing angry culture.
I mean, there are consequences to going to political rallies and saying, lock up your political opponent, and that the media is the enemy of the people. These aren't just idle words. These things have an impact, especially on people that are easily influenced.
Trump, interestingly, though, the first headline is on NPR, and you wonder if Trump isn't playing this really well. Extra threats of political violence and an attack on democracy itself. That's true. I mean, he gets to talk about this stuff.
Of course.
He gets to rise above
Well,
it.
he's the president, so he can try and play the high road.
I mean, I was in a discussion today with some folks, and one person said, well, this will probably help us because it would show the anger, but in a way,
No,
it
it gives
doesn't
him a
help us at
chance.
all,
It gives him a
because
chance
really-
to look presidential, quote unquote.
Right. All the targets this week have been Trump's worst enemies.
Yeah,
So,
he can
favorite
disavow
punching
it all he
bags.
wants. I mean, obviously, based on the targets, whoever's perpetrating
Well, and
this.
here's a good Huffington Post article. Trump has repeatedly called his followers to violence against the people and organizations that were victimized this week. There were no confirmed motives or suspects by Wednesday afternoon. But his violent rhetoric over the past 2 years has led one of his biggest enemies, CNN, to ascribe some blame for the attacks to the president. That's the problem, though. As soon as you start doing that, and they'll just pull out the old outrage. Oh, how could you politicize terrorism? You must really hate America, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you're in it.
Well, yeah.
You can't even go there. You just have to you kind of have to just ignore it and hope that we don't get killed.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the good thing of Badger Politics is simply an online presence.
Right. The bottom line is that this is a very worrisome development, and I mean, A, we hope nobody gets hurt, but B, we really need to I think, dive in as a country and to think about what are the consequences of this jaded political culture we've created over the past few years, because it's like this really, I think, started. I mean, it started long ago, but it really came to fruition in 2016, and I think this is what really stressed out a lot of people, is that the political culture really changed dynamically in 2016 after that election.
Yeah, this is a great quote. Bill and Hillary Clinton were also victims. They've been demonized by the right for decades. But only one leader has suggested that the Republican voters shoot Hillary Clinton or her Supreme Court appointees dead if she won the presidency. And the quote was, "If she gets to pick her justices, nothing you can do, folks," Trump said with a shrug at a rally in 2016. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, that just speaks right to it. I mean, this is ridiculous.
His constituents still chant, "Lock her up," at his rallies. He is still demanding this year that his followers get angry about her.
So
let's see if she gets away with it, he said in August. But the ugly thing is, I just don't see where we win by even drawing attention to this.
Well,
I mean, in a way,
the bottom line is there needs to be an answer to it. I mean, the president of CNN, Jeff Zucker, came out and said, quote, "There is a total and complete lack of understanding at the White House about the seriousness of their continued attacks on the media."
Yeah,
the president and especially the White House press secretary should understand their words matter.
So
thus far, they have shown no comprehension of that.
After Trump did not do the both sides thing, he actually called it an attack on democracy. How is that point, albeit very correct, going to inspire anybody who wasn't already disgusted by Trump?
I'm just saying that it merits response. And, I mean, we don't know who's behind it. I mean, hopefully, by week's end, we'll have more answers.
I would say this. I would say that we're in a time of, frankly, of fear. As Democrats, small d Democrats, right? As people who believe in freedom and democracy and want to see a prosperous future anchored partly by the United States as an open society. Those of us who want that are in a pretty precarious situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing right here.
Right. And quite seriously, does calling attention, even if it's true, to our victimhood do anything to strengthen our case?
Well,
I'm just thinking of civil rights leaders, like when they got spat on and stuff. You didn't hear the half of it. That's just the ones that made that with the cameras caught.
Sure.
These people lived with daily harassment. Civil rights leaders were shot. Civil rights workers from the North, like white college grads who went down in the early 60s in Mississippi, got killed. And yes, some of them got some high-profile things, but in many cases, it took 20, 30 years to even bring the perpetrators to justice when the killers were known.
Yeah.
So my point is, the narrative of the civil rights struggle is oftentimes less about the constant threats. I mean, when Dr. King got killed, it was after a lot of threats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he just kept going forward. I'm not saying that we should be naive to the threats, but at the same time calling attention to them. I think people who really believe in progress against this kind of right-wing authoritarian culture that you see emerging right now, it's certainly in the United States, those who believe in progress get almost nowhere by crying foul. They get nowhere by doing nothing but showing the strength of their convictions.
I think the point is it's going to be called attention to anyway because of the fact that it's being reported from the Secret Service to the media.
So how do we handle it? Do we say,
I think
we're really angry at Trump, or do we say, you know what, we're doing things that some people find unpopular, that some people have vile reactions to, but we're willing to keep doing it because it's important.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Right. Rather than go point the finger at Trump, who is going to say, hey, what did I do? I'm just an orange guy.
Right. I'm not the one sending the mail. So I'm not accountable.
Right.
Yeah. No, there is that. That's true. I think it just merits discussion.
Yeah.
So
I think this is a productive conversation. I hope that people can listen to it because it's like, I feel like we're taking a few minutes to pause and really reflect here. And it's not exactly the lively, it's not quite Uncle Rick. I'm not sure what I don't know if I want to know what he thinks about all of this.
Well, we don't know.
And I don't think he's in the neighborhood tonight, so.
So we don't. I mean, that's all we really know at this point is what the targets are. We don't have suspects or anything like that. So maybe by the time we get this thing uploaded, we'll know more.
Yeah.
So moving on to other things in the news. So there was a new Reuters, Ipsos, University of Virginia poll showing amongst likely voters the governor's race here in Wisconsin, 48% to 45%, Tony Evers is up, and 54% to 39%, Tammy Baldwin is leading. So that's amongst likely voters.
Drop mic.
So just
6% of the public is going to vote for Walker and Baldwin to set up a 12-point swing.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, it's a little surprising. I mean, because I don't see that happening, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, Tammy's not going to win by 15 points. I mean, she's going to win. I think that's going to be an early victory for her. I knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I expect the Evers Walker race to go probably a little deeper into the evening.
Everybody's troubled by this, but it's not entirely unprecedented. But you do have to go back probably a decade or more to really see
the Tommy Thompson
that
era
spread. I think in 2006, Herb Kohl got like 67% of the vote. Jim Doyle, in a successful effort, received, I think, 53%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was that.
There's
that was
precedent.
even bigger. Yeah. Then again, you didn't even have an active campaign against Kohl that year.
No, that's true. That's true.
It was a token resistance to him at best.
Yeah.
But you did see, Russ Feingold say in 2004, he got 56-44. That's when we all started thinking Russ was safe. He won 56-44 the same year. Bush was reelected.
Yeah.
Bush did lose Wisconsin.
He did.
However, by the very narrow margin,
Yeah.
actually narrower than Trump won, and unfortunately,
I think John Kerry doubled what Al Gore had 4 years prior.
Margin,
but yeah.
Kerry beat Bush by 10,000 votes or 11,000 votes. And Feingold got it by, I think, 300,000 votes.
Yeah.
So
you're right. There's precedent for kind of that disconnect between the two statewide races.
Which would mean literally 150,000 people went and voted for Bush and Feingold that year.
Do you think that's the kind of the nature of the offices, that the position of U.S. Senator inherently maybe is less partisan right now than the position of governor?
I suppose, or president.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that we had the Democratic candidate for the other job, whether it's president or governor, always underperforming the Senate candidate until
That's
10 years ago, and then it flipped.
It used to be the other way around. Right. I mean, when Tommy Thompson was governor, he was kind of beyond partisan.
No, but the Democratic candidate for governor was always underpolling whatever the Senate, whether it was Kohl or Feingold, by a lot.
Exactly.
And then it closed, and then not only did it close, but then it flipped, where in 2012 and 2016, the Democratic presidential candidate, at least, outpolled the Senate candidate. And in the case of Barrett and Feingold, it was the same in 2010, or just about the same.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting that both in the case of Ron Johnson and Tammy Baldwin, that those races are not as tight as the race for governor.
Yeah, we think it's decided. So we think that for Senate. For governor, we got these polls. We've got early vote patterns, which I'm trying to disentangle.
Yeah.
Right now, they pretty much look like they're a wash.
Yeah.
You pretty much have more or less the same composition of the electorate that you had in 2016, which in some ways could be encouraging because it's a midterm election. So even though 2016 featured depressed turnout in the city of Milwaukee, it was generally much higher. And so if the turnout profile is the same and there's just a little bit of persuasion from Trumpers over to Evers, that would be good. On the other hand, that may not be the case.
Yeah.
And there may be never Trumpers who will vote for Walker.
Well, we'll have to see. Speaking of Trump, so he was.
I'd put the governor's race at dead even right now.
Yeah.
Maybe with the
Well,
slight.
I mean, obviously the Ipsos poll, so it's 48-45 for Evers, but the margin of error is 2.5.
Wow. It's interesting because this pattern is now not just in Wisconsin. We're seeing this everywhere, where the likely voters are more Democratic leaning in the unlikely voters. And that's the problem with the Kavanaugh effect.
Yeah.
It's those unlikely voters. Less educated, sometimes lower income white men, mostly, and white women. So that's who we have to watch out for. Let's hope that not two of them get inspired to vote.
So the fearless leader was in Wisconsin today, speaking at a rally in Mosinee, out near La Crosse.
The fearless leader, you mean 45?
Yep, number 45, Mr. Trump. And basically he was, doing the same old narrative. Illegal immigrants are going to invade the state of Wisconsin, so don't vote for Tony Evers. Trying to take attention away from health care and pre-existing condition protections. And as we said,
wait, Trump was endorsing taking away the health care?
No, he's trying to distract from that issue.
Oh, trying to, yes.
Yeah, it's immigration. It's that there's the caravan coming from Latin America, going to up through Mexico, and they're going to invade America.
People are serious about electing Tony Evers. What they ought to do, in my opinion, is double down on the pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely.
And
it comes up, poll after poll shows it's the most important issue to voters.
Even a new ad campaign saying, here's Walker's actual record on why is Scott Walker lying about pre-existing conditions.
Yeah.
I know that Team Evers thinks, oh, look, we've been ahead, so no need to change.
Yeah.
You know what? You're not ahead that convincingly. In most readings, you're actually closer than you were like a month ago.
Yeah.
Walker has caught up. And so if you think it's never a good time when the incumbent's catching up. And so I would say usually that means you're in pretty serious danger of not pulling the thing off. And I would argue that Team Evers needs to double down with a fresh set of ads that really drill into what Walker's record on pre-existing conditions is. And even have him saying, I support protecting people with pre-existing conditions, and say, oh, really? Here's what he did.
Yeah,
and then,
here's your actions. Here's the lawsuit you signed on to eliminate the Affordable Care Act.
Just show him speaking completely out of both sides of his mouth and make it 100% clear that you can't trust anything the man says. And that he has a record that's obviously... he's just lying.
Yeah, I mean, he's not only lying, but I mean, again, the Republicans, not only here in Wisconsin but across the country, are trying to change the focus from healthcare to immigration because they want people to be scared of people coming in from the Mexican border. And what they want is Democrats to stop talking about pre-existing conditions and start talking about their immigration positions, so that can be the platform, so that can be the thing that is being reported every night.
That's true. Which is all the more reason to double down on the message.
Exactly. So don't be distracted. And a day where Democrats are not talking about health care and pre-existing conditions and Medicare for all and all these things is a day where there's a missed opportunity.
Bottom line is this. Scott Walker, we oftentimes, us liberals, like to give the benefit of the doubt to the other side. Oh, well, they're twisting the truth. They're not twisting the truth. There is no truth to what they're saying.
Exactly.
Scott Walker does not support protecting people with pre-existing conditions. He's literally gone on TV and said he does, and he's literally lied. And he needs to be called directly out on the lie.
Absolutely.
And I know... Don't wait around for PolitiFact to do it for you, because they won't, or you'll get that on Wednesday the 7th of November. And not only that, if it wasn't enough, Rachel Maddow pointed out last night, hat tip to her, that Trump actually rewrote administrative rules yesterday that free states to allow insurance companies to discriminate against pre-existing conditions, despite what it says in the Affordable Care Act.
There you go.
And despite all their rhetoric. They literally signed... They issued administrative rules saying that states can choose to allow companies to discriminate against pre-existing conditions. So what's going to happen the day after the election? Give me a break.
Yeah, exactly.
If you fall for this, you're simply...
Well,
you're putting everybody in Wisconsin's health in peril. My own family's included.
Again,
everybody
as
else.
we said last time, it's don't judge them by their words, judge them by their actions.
Yeah. So. I got to run. I am afraid Rick might be hearing about us and coming over.
All right, everybody.
All right. Thanks.
Forward.